It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Brad Smith, President and Chief Legal Officer of Microsoft. You guys got pretty lucky, didn't you? Brad is responsible for Microsoft's corporate, external, and legal affairs and oversees a team of more than 1,400 professionals working in 55 countries. In his role, he leads the company's work on a number of critical issues, including cybersecurity, digital privacy, public policy, and government affairs. He also has responsibility for intellectual property, accessibility, philanthropy, and environmental sustainability. As president, Brad has spearheaded programs and initiatives aimed at increasing economic development and opportunity, ensuring all of society benefits from technological advances. I'm very, very pleased to welcome Brad Smith.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. You know, it may be a cloudy day outside, but the smiles in this room are as bright as the sun, and that is exactly the way it should be. This is a milestone day. It's a magical moment. And before we do anything else, I think for all of you who are graduating today, give yourselves a round of applause. It's also an interesting afternoon because each of you will walk up on this stage, shake hands, and later walk back through that door and back into the world. The exciting news is almost all of you are going to walk back to a job that is awaiting you, to a job where some of you have already recently started working. It certainly causes me to reflect on my own experience when roughly 30 years ago, I did more or less the same thing. I graduated from law school in the United States. I went to a law firm in Washington, D.C. I had these great dreams. I had studied international law, and I went to work that first day wondering, maybe they'll put me on an airplane. Maybe they'll send me to Europe to negotiate a great agreement. It was only that day that I discovered that most organizations don't, in fact, save their most exciting project to give it to the newest person in the office. I was sent on a trip. It was down the hall. It wasn't into an airplane. Instead, it was to a file room. And my first big project was to review 110,000 pieces of paper to record summaries of them for a lawsuit. It was not exactly what I had gone to law school dreaming I would do. But I decided I would turn it into something fun. I would learn from it and I would do the best I could do. Heck, if I could, I was going to read these documents better than anybody had ever read such documents before. And 30 years later, I think that kind of persistence and some days even patience still serves everybody well. But perhaps more than anything, when I look out at all of you and your wonderful families, I'm struck. It's a different world than it was 30 years ago. And it's that world that all of you will leave this hall to re-enter. It's a different time. Now, the good news is it's an exciting time. You don't actually get to choose whether you graduate at a time of economic prosperity or recession. And compared to the students who graduated 8 or 9 or 10 years ago, believe me, you are fortunate. This is a good time to enter the workforce. Across Canada and around the world, economies are growing. But the different time that we live in actually has attributes that go far deeper than that. We've entered a new world of technology, and it doesn't matter whether your future is in healthcare or computing, because in so many ways, the sciences and computing are coming together. They are creating new opportunities and new changes and new jobs. And these are the things that absolutely will define your future at work and, for that matter, at home. But it's also a different place. Now, I will admit, I'm actually sort of happy I'm in Canada today rather than in Washington, D.C., given the kinds of issues that we're dealing with in America. But in fact, I think there's something special in the air here in British Columbia. When I come here, as I often do, I'm struck by the changes in the economy. I'm struck by the way people here are building on this incredible place and wonderful past. A past that started with a wonderful culture enriched by Indigenous peoples. A place that continues to appreciate the importance of that past. But it's also a place that is moving from an economy grounded in raw materials and fishing and lumber to a future that is about people and technology. And so many of the jobs that you all will be pursuing reflect this new world of technology. More and more, the economy of Vancouver and British Columbia, and for that matter, all of Canada, are going to reflect these new kinds of technologies. And so when you think about your future, that patience and persistence will serve you well. But the truth is, you'll probably have to do some things that are rather different from the things that I did, that all of us on this platform did 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. For one thing, this may be your last day at BCIT, but believe me, it is not your last day of learning. All of us are basically going to have to do even more to make learning a part of what we do every day. You'll need to continue to learn in the subjects that you've been studying already, because believe me, each of these fields, healthcare, computing, are likely to change as much in the next decade as they have changed in any decade over the last century. And you'll have to find new ways to stay in touch with these unfolding fields, whether it's by continuing literally to be in touch with BCIT, or simply to get up every day and find something interesting to read about what is happening in the world. But there's a second dimension to this learning that in many ways I think is even more profound. Because so many of us in the past have lived with a job or a career where we needed to keep studying the things we had studied before. But in the future that has already arrived, we're seeing intersections between disciplines. Healthcare is in part about computing. Artificial intelligence, quite literally, will probably help us cure cancer. And given the focus here in BC on cancer research, some of that advance will come here, right by people in our midst. But in some ways, that's an example of a phenomenon that is far broader still. Because we're looking to a future where we're going to be asking machines, computing devices, to make decisions in a way that has never happened before with artificial intelligence. And we are going to need to make machines that reflect the best of humanity rather than the worst of the things that have impacted the planet in the past. And there's only one way to do that. That is to bring science, technology, engineering, and math closer together with fields like the humanities and social sciences and the rest of the liberal arts. So it doesn't matter what you studied, you will have to learn more about something else as well. We've entered a future where everybody who can code needs to learn a little bit more about the liberal arts. And everybody who's come from the liberal arts, as many of you have before coming to BCIT, need to learn a little bit about science and coding and how we can bring these disciplines together. All of that, I think, is a formula for a more successful future. But as you pursue that future, I hope you'll keep in mind one other thing as well. Make your future about something that is bigger than yourself. It may be a big thing. It may be an opportunity that you suddenly find yourself having the ability to pursue at work, where you literally are part of a project that can touch and even change the world. And when you find yourself doing that, that too will be a magical moment. But many days it won't be as grandiose as that, but don't for a moment ever think that you're living in a world where you can't do something to help someone else. It may be as small as saying an encouraging word or lending a helping hand to somebody who is having a difficult day. It may be as simple as offering to have lunch and listen to somebody else talk about their problems. Never underestimate the ability that you have to shine a light and improve somebody else's day. So as we leave here today, as you walk across the stage and think about the rest of this day, enjoy the moment. Believe me, you deserve it. Say thank you to all of the people, from your family and friends to the wonderful faculty that have helped make today possible. I hope you'll go forth and have an exciting career. I hope you'll have a wonderful life. And as you do all of that, I hope that you and your generation will do what we so desperately need you to do. Help us build a better world. Thank you very much.